The unbreakable spirit, Earth's last stand. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before Captain Sarah Chen as she stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's most advanced warship. Her dark eyes scanned the holographic displays surrounding her, each one painting a grim picture of humanity's dire situation. It had been 5 years since the Galactic Empire had made first contact with Earth, and 3 since they had declared war on humanity. Sarah's grip tightened on the railing as she remembered the day the Zarkians had revealed their true intentions. What had started as a seemingly peaceful exchange of knowledge and technology had quickly devolved into a nightmare. The aliens had come not as friends, but as conquerors, intent on strip-mining Earth of its resources and subjugating its population. "Captain," a voice called out, pulling Sarah from her thoughts. She turned to see her first officer, Commander Jack Torres, approaching with a datapad in hand. "The latest reports from the front lines have come in. It's not good." Sarah took the pad, her heart sinking as she scrolled through the information. One by one, Earth's colonies were falling to the Zarkian onslaught. Mars, Europa, Titan, all gone. The aliens' superior technology and vast numbers were overwhelming humanity's defenses. "How long?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack's face was grim. "At their current rate of advance, they'll reach Earth in less than a month." Sarah closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to steady herself. When she opened them again, there was a fire burning in their depths. "We're not going down without a fight, Commander. Gather the senior staff in the war room. It's time we come up with a plan to turn this war around." As Sarah made her way to the war room, she couldn't help but marvel at the resilience of her crew. Despite the overwhelming odds, they moved with purpose and determination. The corridors of the Defiant buzzed with activity, each member of the crew doing their part to keep humanity's last hope alive. In the war room, Sarah found her senior staff already assembled. Dr. Aisha Patel, the ship's chief scientist, was engaged in a heated discussion with Major Lai Wei, head of marine operations. Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov sat quietly in the corner, his weathered hands tinkering with some piece of alien tech they had salvaged from a recent skirmish. "All right, people," Sarah said as she entered, drawing everyone's attention. "We all know the situation. Earth is on the brink, and we're running out of options. But I refuse to believe this is the end. We need ideas, no matter how crazy they might seem." For a moment, silence reigned. Then, Dr. Patil cleared her throat. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data we've gathered on Zarkian technology. There's something odd about their FTL drives. It's almost as if they're not fully utilizing the potential of their own tech." Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on." "Well," Aisha continued, her fingers dancing across a holographic display, bringing up complex equations and schematics. "If my calculations are correct, we might be able to modify our own drives to achieve speeds far beyond what the Zarkians are capable of." Major Lai Wei scoffed. "And how exactly is going faster supposed to help us win a war? We're outnumbered and outgunned." "Not necessarily," Dmitry spoke up, his thick Russian accent filling the room. "If we can move faster than they can, we might be able to hit them where they least expect it. Their supply lines, perhaps, or even their homeworld." Sarah's mind raced with the possibilities. A strike at the heart of the Zarkian Empire could change everything. But it would be a suicide mission with almost no chance of return. "It's risky," Jack said, voicing the concern on everyone's minds. "We'd be sending our best ship and crew on what amounts to a one-way trip." Sarah nodded, her face set in grim determination. "Sometimes that's the price we have to pay for victory." "Dr. Patel, how long would it take to implement these modifications?" Aisha bit her lip, mental calculations flying through her mind. "With the entire engineering team working around the clock, maybe 2 weeks." "You have one," Sarah declared. "Mitri, I want you and your team to give Dr. Patel whatever she needs. Major Lai, start preparing your Marines for a ground assault. We're going to hit the Zarkians where it hurts." As the meeting adjourned and her staff filed out, each with their own tasks to complete, Sarah found herself alone in the war room. She pulled up a holographic image of Earth, its blue and green surface marred by the scars of Zarkian attacks. Her home, the cradle of humanity, hung in the balance. "We won't let you fall," she whispered to the image. "Whatever it takes." The next week passed in a blur of activity. The Defiant became a hive of constant motion as Aisha and Dmitri's teams worked tirelessly to implement the FTL drive modifications. Sarah spent her days coordinating with what remained of Earth's defense forces, laying out the details of their desperate plan. 7 days after the war room meeting, Sarah stood once again on the bridge of the Defiant. This time, however, anticipation replaced dread in the air. "Status report," she called out. "FTL drive modifications are complete, Captain." Dmitri's voice came over the comm. "We're ready when you are." "Weapons are primed and at full capacity," Tactical Officer Lieutenant Zoe Rodriguez reported. "All Marines are prepped and ready for deployment," Major Lai added from his station. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the ship-wide communication panel. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. With a press of a button, her voice rang out through every corner of the Defiant. "Attention all hands, this is your captain speaking. In a few moments, we will be embarking on the most important mission in human history. Our goal is nothing less than the survival of our species. Each and every one of you has demonstrated courage and dedication beyond measure, and I am honored to serve alongside you." She paused, letting her words sink in. "What we attempt today has never been done before. We will be pushing ourselves and this ship to the very limits of what's possible. The odds are stacked against us, but remember this. We are the last, best hope for Earth and all of humanity. No matter what happens, know that your actions today will echo through history." Sarah's voice grew stronger, filled with unwavering resolve. "We go now to face our enemy, to show them the true strength of the human spirit. We go to fight not just for ourselves, but for every man, woman, and child on Earth. We go to ensure that humanity has a future among the stars." Her final words rang with fierce determination. "To your stations, brave men and women of the Defiant. Today we make our stand. Today we fight for Earth." As cheers erupted throughout the ship, Sarah cut the communication and turned to her helm officer. "Lieutenant Chen, plot a course for the Zarkian homeworld. Maximum speed." "Aye, Captain," the young officer replied, her fingers flying over the controls. Sarah settled into her command chair, her eyes fixed on the view screen ahead. "Engage." The stars blurred into streaks of light as the Defiant leaped into FTL, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of all humanity. As they hurtled towards their destiny, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. The Zarkians were about to learn just how dangerous humanity could be when pushed to the brink. The battle for Earth's future had begun. Operation Stardust, infiltrating the enemy. The Defiant streaked through the cosmos at speeds never before achieved by human technology. Inside the ship, the crew worked with focused intensity, each member acutely aware of the stakes of their mission. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of light that represented their FTL travel. "ETA to Zarkian space?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the tension thrumming through her body. Lieutenant Chen consulted her instruments. "At current velocity, we'll reach the outer defense perimeter of Zarkia Prime in approximately 18 hours, Captain." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with plans and contingencies. "Excellent. Commander Torres, gather the senior staff in the war room. We need to finalize our infiltration strategy." As the key personnel assembled, Sarah looked around the table at the faces of those who would determine the fate of humanity. Each bore the weight of their responsibility, yet there was a fire in their eyes, a determination to see this through, no matter the cost. "Dr. Patel," Sarah began, What have you learned about Zarkian defenses from our long-range scans? Aisha brought up a holographic display of the Zarkian home system. Their orbital defense grid is formidable, Captain. Energy shields, automated defense platforms, and a fleet larger than anything we've encountered before. But she paused, zooming in on a particular section. There's a weak point here, in the polar orbit. The electromagnetic interference from Zarkia Prime's magnetosphere creates a blind spot in their sensor grid. Major Lai Wei leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the display. It's not much, but it might be enough for a small team to slip through. We could deploy a stealth shuttle and infiltrate the planet's surface. Sarah nodded, the beginnings of a plan forming in her mind. Exactly what I was thinking, Major. You'll lead a small team to the surface. Your objective will be to locate and disable their planetary defense grid. Once it's down, the Defiant can move in and launch a full-scale assault on their military installations. And what about the Zarkian civilians? Jack Torres asked, voicing the concern that hung heavy in the air. Sarah's expression hardened. We're not like them, Jack. Our fight is with their military, not their innocent population. Major Lai, make sure your team understands. Minimal collateral damage. We're here to end this war, not start a genocide. The next hours were a flurry of activity as the crew prepared for their daring mission. In the hangar bay, Major Lai and his team, a mix of the Defiant's best Marines and technical experts, readied their equipment. The stealth shuttle, a sleek black craft designed to be virtually undetectable, hummed with latent energy. As Sarah performed one final inspection of the infiltration team, she paused before Major Lai. Wei, I don't need to tell you how crucial this mission is. The fate of our entire species rests on your success. The Major met her gaze, his face a mask of determination. We won't let you down, Captain. We'll get that defense grid offline or die trying. Sarah clasped his shoulder. Let's aim for the former, shall we? Good hunting, Major. As the stealth shuttle detached from the Defiant and slipped silently towards Zarkia Prime, Sarah returned to the bridge. The tension was palpable as they waited, hovering just outside the range of Zarkian sensors. Hours crawled by, each minute feeling like an eternity. Sarah paced the bridge, her eyes constantly flicking to the communications panel, waiting for word from the infiltration team. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out from tactical. Multiple Zarkian warships just dropped out of FTL. They've detected us. Sarah's mind raced. How had they been discovered? Had the infiltration team been compromised? There was no time to ponder. They needed to act now. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Sarah commanded, her voice ringing with authority. Helm, evasive maneuvers. Tactical, ready all weapons but hold fire. We can't risk hitting the planet while our team is down there. The space around the Defiant erupted into chaos as Zarkian ships opened fire. The human vessel danced through the barrage, its enhanced engines allowing it to move with unprecedented agility. Captain, Aisha's voice came over the comm, tinged with excitement despite the dire situation. I've been analyzing their attack patterns. There's a flaw in their targeting algorithms, a split-second delay we might be able to exploit. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Send the data to tactical. Zoe, time your shots to take advantage of that delay. We need to buy time for the ground team. The battle raged on, a deadly dance of energy beams and explosive ordnance. The Defiant, despite being vastly outnumbered, held its own thanks to its advanced technology and the skill of its crew. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a crackling message came through. Defiant, this is Ground Team Alpha. We've reached the primary control center for the planetary defense grid. Commencing shutdown sequence now. A cheer went up on the bridge, quickly silenced as Sarah barked out new orders. This is our chance. All weapons, fire at will. Target their primary military installations. The Defiant's weapon systems roared to life, unleashing a devastating barrage on the now vulnerable planet below. Zarkian ships, caught off guard by the sudden shift in the battle, scrambled to regroup. As the planetary defense grid flickered and died, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. Against all odds, they had struck a critical blow against the heart of the Zarkian Empire. But the battle was far from over. As Zarkian reinforcements poured in from all directions, Sarah knew that the true test of humanity's resolve was just beginning. The next few hours would determine not just the outcome of this battle, but the fate of Earth and all of humanity. With steely determination in her eyes, Sarah Chen stood tall on the bridge of the Defiant. "All hands," she called out, her voice steady and resolute. "Prepare for Phase 2. Today, we show the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit." As the crew responded with a resounding cheer, the Defiant plunged back into the fray, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species. The battle for Zarkia Prime and the future of humanity had only just begun. The turning point, David versus Goliath. The space around Zarkia Prime had become a maelstrom of chaos and destruction. The Defiant, a lone human ship against an armada of Zarkian vessels, twisted and turned through the battlefield with impossible grace. Captain Sarah Chen's voice rang out clear and steady over the din of battle, issuing commands with unwavering authority. "Helm, bring us about. Tactical, concentrate fire on their flagship's port nacelles." The Defiant's advanced weapons lanced out, striking with pinpoint accuracy. The massive Zarkian flagship shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering and failing. "Direct hit, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. "Their flagship's propulsion is offline." A cheer went up on the bridge, but Sarah knew better than to celebrate too soon. "Stay focused, people. We've bloodied their nose, but this fight is far from over." As if to emphasize her point, a fresh wave of Zarkian fighters swarmed towards the Defiant. The human ship's point defense systems sprang to life, filling the space around it with a web of defensive fire. "Captain," Commander Torres called out, his face grim. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple Zarkian battle groups converging on our position. At their current speed, they'll be here within the hour." Sarah's mind raced. They had achieved their primary objective. The planetary defense grid was down, and they had dealt significant damage to the Zarkian fleet in orbit. But they were still hopelessly outnumbered, and reinforcements were on the way. "Dr. Patel," Sarah called out, "what's the status of our FTL drive?" Aisha's fingers flew over her console. "The modifications are holding, Captain, but we're pushing the systems to their limits. I'm not sure how much more they can take." Sarah nodded, a plan forming in her mind. It was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but they were out of options. "Helm, plot a course directly for the Zarkian flagship. Maximum speed." A hush fell over the bridge as the crew realized what their captain was proposing. They were going to ram the enemy flagship at FTL speeds. "Captain," Jack began, his voice low. "If we do this—" "I know, Commander," Sarah cut him off. "But we're out of options. If we can take out their command and control, we might just give Earth a fighting chance." She turned to address the entire bridge crew. "I won't order anyone to stay for this. If you want to evacuate to the escape pods, now's your chance." For a moment, silence reigned. Then, one by one, each crew member affirmed their commitment to see this through. "We're with you, Captain," Jack said, speaking for them all. "To the end." Sarah felt a surge of pride for her crew. "All right then. Helm, engage FTL on my mark. Tactical, divert all power to forward shields. Let's show these aliens what humanity is made of." As the Defiant prepared for its final, desperate maneuver, a sudden transmission cut through the chaos of battle. "Defiant, this is Ground Team Alpha. We've done more than shut down the defense grid. We've accessed their central computer network. Captain, you need to see this." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Put it on screen." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a torrent of data streaming from the Zarkian systems. Aisha gasped as she began to analyze the information. Captain, this is incredible. The Zarkians, they're not a natural species. They're artificial constructs created by some ancient, long-dead race. And their aggression, their need to conquer, it's all programmed. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Are you saying we might be able to reprogram them? Aisha nodded excitedly. Theoretically, yes. If we can upload a modified behavioral subroutine to their central network, we could potentially end their aggressive expansion. But we'd need to get much closer to the planet's surface to transmit that much data. Sarah's mind whirled with the possibilities. This changed everything. They no longer needed to destroy the Zarkians. They could potentially end the war without further bloodshed. New plan, Sarah announced, her voice ringing with renewed determination. We're going to make a run for the planet's surface. Dr. Patel, work with the ground team to develop that behavioral patch. Everyone else, get ready for some extreme maneuvering. We're going to thread the needle through their defenses. The Defiant banked hard, its engines flaring as it dove towards Zarkia Prime. The Zarkian fleet, caught off guard by the sudden change in tactics, scrambled to intercept. Incoming fire from all directions. Zoe called out, her hands dancing over the tactical controls. Evasive pattern Delta, Sarah commanded. Rotate shield harmonics to disperse their energy weapons. The ship shuddered and bucked as it plunged through the storm of enemy fire. Alarms blared as systems were pushed beyond their limits, but still the Defiant pressed on. We're entering the atmosphere, the helm officer reported, her voice strained with concentration. Hull temperature rising rapidly. Dimitri's voice came over the comm. The outer plating wasn't designed for this kind of stress, Captain. Sarah gripped her command chair, her knuckles white. Hold it together, people. We're almost there. As the Defiant streaked through Zarkia Prime's skies, the towering spires of the alien capital came into view. At its center stood a massive structure, the central hub of the Zarkian network. Dr. Patel, status on that behavioral patch, Sarah demanded. Ready to upload, Captain. But we need to be within 100 meters of the central hub to guarantee transmission. Sarah's jaw set with determination. You heard the doctor. Helm, take us in. Tactical, clear us a path. The Defiant's weapons roared to life one final time, carving a swath through the Zarkian aerial defenses. The ship screamed towards the central hub, its hull glowing cherry red from the atmospheric friction. 50 meters, 40, 30. Jack called out the distance, his voice tense. Now, Dr. Patel. Upload the patch. Sarah commanded. Aisha's fingers flew over her console, initiating the upload. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, all across the city, Zarkian ships began to power down. The ceaseless barrage of enemy fire sputtered and died. On the streets below, Zarkian soldiers stopped in their tracks, their weapons falling from suddenly slack grips. It's working, Aisha breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. The behavioral patch is propagating through their entire network. A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the creaking of the Defiant's overtaxed hull. They had done it. Against all odds, they had ended the war not with destruction, but with understanding. As the realization of their victory sank in, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Stand down, Red Alert, she ordered, her voice thick with emotion. And get me a channel to Earth. It's time to deliver some good news. The bridge erupted into cheers and embraces as the crew celebrated their miraculous victory. Sarah sat back in her command chair, a wave of relief washing over her. They had saved Earth, and perhaps changed the course of galactic history in the process. As she prepared to contact Earth with news of their victory, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the twists of fate that had brought them to this moment. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, it was filled with hope. The battle was over. The war was won, and humanity had proven that even in the darkest of times, their spirit, ingenuity, and compassion could overcome any obstacle. Ripples of hope, unexpected allies. In the days following the miraculous victory at Zarkia Prime, the Defiant and its crew found themselves at the center of a rapidly changing galactic landscape. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching as Zarkian ships, once bent on humanity's destruction, now worked alongside human vessels to undo the damage of their long war. "It's still hard to believe," Commander Jack Torres said, coming to stand beside her. "A week ago, we were fighting for our very survival. Now," Sarah nodded, understanding the awe in her first officer's voice. "Now we're on the brink of a new era of peace and cooperation. It's more than we could have ever hoped for." The behavioral patch developed by Dr. Patel and the ground team had done more than simply stop the Zarkians' aggression. It had unlocked the full potential of their artificial minds, freeing them from the destructive programming of their long-dead creators. The Zarkians, once humanity's greatest threat, were now their most ardent allies in rebuilding the galaxy. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out from her station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Hawthorne." Sarah straightened her uniform. "Put him through, Lieutenant." The grizzled face of Admiral Hawthorne, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, appeared on the main view screen. Despite the victory, his expression was grim. "Captain Chen," he began without preamble. "First, let me congratulate you and your crew on your extraordinary success. You've done humanity a great service." "Thank you, Admiral," Sarah replied, sensing there was more to come. "But I have a feeling this isn't just a social call." Hawthorne nodded. "You're right. We've received a distress call from a previously unknown alien species. They call themselves the Nixari, and they claim to be under attack by another hostile force, one that makes the Zarkians look like amateurs." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Another hostile alien species. "Do we know anything about them?" "Not much," Hawthorne admitted. "The Nixari call them the Void Swarm. Apparently, they're a hive mind species that consumes entire planets. The Nixari have been fighting them for centuries, barely keeping them at bay. But now the Void Swarm is winning." Sarah finished, understanding the implications. "Exactly. The Nixari are requesting our help. Normally, I'd be hesitant to involve Earth in another interstellar conflict so soon, but our analysts believe that if the Void Swarm defeats the Nixari, Earth could be their next target." Sarah's mind raced with the possibilities. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "I'm dispatching a diplomatic team to meet with the Nixari leadership, but given the Defiant's unique capabilities and your crew's recent experience, I want you to lead our military response. Work with the Nixari, assess the threat posed by this Void Swarm, and do whatever is necessary to neutralize it." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders once again. "Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. She saw in their faces a mix of exhaustion from their recent ordeal and determination to face this new challenge. "Well, folks," she said with a wry smile, "it looks like our vacation will have to wait. Plot a course for the Nixari home system. Let's go meet our new allies." The journey to Nixari space took several days, even with the Defiant's enhanced FTL drive. Sarah used the time to brief her crew on what little they knew about their new potential allies and the threat they faced. As they approached the Nixari system, everyone on the bridge gasped in awe. The Nixari homeworld was unlike anything they had ever seen. A planet-sized crystal structure that gleamed with internal light, surrounded by a network of smaller crystalline bodies. "Captain," Aisha called out, her voice filled with excitement. "I'm detecting incredible energy readings from the planet. The entire structure seems to be one massive, living organism." Before Sarah could respond, a fleet of crystalline ships appeared before them, their forms shifting and reshaping as they moved. "We're being hailed," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "On screen," Sarah commanded, straightening her uniform. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being that seemed to be made of living crystal. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but constantly shifting, facets catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the being spoke, its voice a harmonious resonance that seemed to vibrate through the ship itself. "I am Zixlith, High Resonator of the Nix-Ari Collective. We welcome you to our home, and thank you for answering our call for aid." Sarah stepped forward. "Greetings, High Resonator Zixlith. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiant. We're here to help in any way we can against the threat of the Void Swarm." Zixlith's form shimmered, expressing what Sarah assumed was gratitude. "Your willingness to stand with us against the darkness is most appreciated, Captain Chen. But I'm afraid the situation is even more dire than we initially reported. The Void Swarm has launched a major offensive. They will reach our system within days." Sarah's mind raced, formulating strategies. "High Resonator, we'll need to coordinate our defenses immediately. Can we meet in person to discuss our options?" "Of course," Zixlith agreed. "Please, bring your key personnel to our Grand Resonance Chamber. There is much to discuss, and little time to prepare." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her senior staff. "Jack, Aisha, Wei, you're with me. Dimitri, I want you to stay here and work with the Nix-Ari engineers. See if we can integrate some of their crystal tech with our systems. We're going to need every advantage we can get." As they prepared to shuttle down to the crystal world below, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of both excitement and trepidation. They had barely survived one interstellar war, and now they were voluntarily entering another. But as she looked at her crew, human, Zarkian, and soon Nix-Ari all working together, she felt a surge of hope. The galaxy was full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But if they could stand united against the darkness, there was no challenge they couldn't overcome. With renewed determination, Sarah led her team towards the shuttle bay, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them next. The fate of not just Earth, but perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested in their hands. And Sarah Chen, captain of the Defiant, was determined to prove that humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. A new dawn, humanity's triumph. The Grand Resonance Chamber of the Nix-Ari was a marvel of alien architecture. Massive crystal spires reached towards a ceiling that seemed to shimmer with the light of 1,000 stars. Captain Sarah Chen and her team stood in awe, their eyes struggling to take in the otherworldly beauty around them. High Resonator Zixlith's form coalesced before them, accompanied by a group of Nix-Ari officials. "Welcome, friends from Earth," Zixlith's melodious voice resonated through the chamber. "We have much to discuss and little time. The Void Swarm approaches, and with it, the potential end of all we hold dear." Sarah nodded grimly. "We're ready to help in any way we can. What can you tell us about the Void Swarm's capabilities?" As Zixlith began to explain, holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing terrifying images of the Void Swarm in action. Massive, insectoid ships that seemed to devour everything in their path. Entire planets reduced to lifeless husks in a matter of hours. "Their technology is unlike anything we've ever encountered," Zixlith explained. "They don't just destroy, they consume. Energy, matter, even the very fabric of space-time itself becomes fuel for their endless hunger." Dr. Patel's eyes widened as she studied the data. "This is incredible. Their ships seem to operate on principles that defy our understanding of physics. It's as if they're creating localized areas of altered reality." Major Lai Wei's face was grim. "How are we supposed to fight something like that? Our weapons might as well be slingshots against this kind of technology." Sarah's mind raced, trying to find a solution. Then, a crazy idea struck her. "Dr. Patel, could we use the same principles we used to reprogram the Zarkians? If the Void Swarm is altering reality, maybe we can alter them." Aisha's eyes lit up. "It's possible, Captain. But we'd need to get close enough to one of their command ships to transmit the signal. And even then, we'd be dealing with a completely alien form of consciousness. It would be incredibly risky." "We don't have much choice," Sarah said firmly. It's our best shot at stopping them before they reach the Nixari homeworld. Zixlith's form shimmered with what seemed to be approval. A bold plan, Captain Chen. We will provide whatever assistance we can. Our crystal ships can create temporary reality bubbles that might allow your vessel to get close enough to the Void Swarm's command ship. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as human, Zarkian, and Nixari scientists and engineers worked together to modify the Defiant. Crystal technology was integrated into the ship's systems, enhancing its defenses and giving it the ability to navigate the twisted space around the Void Swarm. As they made their final preparations, Sarah addressed her crew one last time. What we're about to attempt goes beyond anything we've ever done before. The risks are enormous, but the stakes are even higher. Not just for Earth, not just for the Nixari, but for all life in the galaxy. I can't order any of you to come with me on this mission. It's volunteer only. There was a moment of silence. Then Jack Torres stepped forward. We're with you, Captain. All the way. A chorus of agreement rang out from the crew. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat, overwhelmed by their courage and loyalty. All right then, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Let's go save the galaxy. The Defiant, now a hybrid of human, Zarkian, and Nixari technology, launched from the Crystal World. A fleet of Nixari ships surrounded them, ready to provide cover for their desperate mission. As they approached the edge of the system, the first wave of the Void Swarm came into view. It was a terrifying sight. A writhing mass of darkness that seemed to devour the very stars themselves. All hands, battle stations, Sarah commanded. Helm, take us in. Let's show these cosmic horrors what humanity is made of. The battle that followed was unlike anything in the history of the galaxy. The Defiant weaved through impossible geometries, its crystal-enhanced systems allowing it to navigate the twisted space created by the Void Swarm. Nixari ships danced around them, creating temporary bubbles of stable reality that gave the human vessel precious seconds to maneuver and fire. Slowly, painstakingly, they fought their way towards the massive form of the Void Swarm's command ship. It loomed before them, a nightmare-given form, radiating an aura of hunger and malevolence that seemed to claw at their very souls. We're in range, Aisha called out, her voice strained. Initiating upload of the reprogramming signal now. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the Void Swarm ships began to falter. Their coordinated movements became erratic, their reality warping effects weakening. It's working, Jack exclaimed. The hive mind is destabilizing. But their victory was short-lived. A massive tendril of void energy lashed out from the command ship, latching onto the Defiant. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. Dimitri's voice came over the comm, tight with tension. The void energy is eating through our defenses. Sarah gripped her command chair, her mind racing. They were so close, but the Void Swarm wasn't going down without a fight. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. All hands, abandon ship, she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Get to the escape pods. I'll stay behind and make sure the signal upload completes. Captain. No, Jack protested. There has to be another way. Sarah shook her head, a sad smile on her face. It's the only way to ensure the signal reaches every part of the Void Swarm. Someone has to stay and manually adjust the transmission. Now go, that's in order. As her crew reluctantly evacuated, Sarah turned her attention to the battle raging outside. The Defiant was being torn apart around her, but the reprogramming signal was still transmitting. She worked feverishly, adjusting the signal strength and frequency, pushing through the Void Swarm's last desperate defenses. Just as the ship's systems began to fail, a burst of energy erupted from the Void Swarm's command ship. It spread outward in a massive shockwave, engulfing everything in its path. Sarah closed her eyes, prepared for the end. But instead of oblivion, she found herself enveloped in a cocoon of crystal energy. Opening her eyes, she saw the familiar form of Zixlith beside her. "Your sacrifice will not be necessary today, Captain Chen," the Nixari said, its voice filled with warmth. "Your courage and the ingenuity of your species have saved us all." As the crystal cocoon dissolved, Sarah saw that the battle was over. Where the void swarm had been, there was now a swirling nebula of newborn stars, pulsing with life and possibility. What happened?" Sarah asked, awestruck. "Your reprogramming signal did more than simply stop the void swarm," Zixlith explained. "It transformed them. Their hunger for destruction has become a drive to create. They are no longer a threat, but a force for renewal in the galaxy." As the full impact of their victory sank in, Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. They had done it. Against impossible odds, humanity had not only survived, but had changed the course of galactic history. In the days that followed, as the alliance between humans, Zarkians, and Nixari grew stronger, Sarah often found herself looking out at the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but also dangers beyond imagination. Yet she knew now, without a doubt, that humanity was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For in their darkest hour, they had discovered their greatest strength, not in weapons or technology, but in their spirit, their ingenuity, and their capacity for compassion. And with those qualities, there was no force in the universe they couldn't overcome. As the Defiant, newly repaired and upgraded, prepared to embark on its next mission of exploration and diplomacy, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, filled with pride and hope for the future. The stars beckoned, and humanity was ready to answer the call. The end of one chapter had become the beginning of a greater adventure, and Captain Sarah Chen, along with her crew and their new allies, were eager to see what wonders and challenges the vast expanse of space had in store for them next.